The Mirage of Progress: How Tokenism Masks True Inequality. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary woman whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand the intersection of race, gender, and economic opportunity in America. Tasha Green is not just a researcher or advocate, she is a visionary who has courageously pulled back the curtain on what we call progress in corporate America. Her groundbreaking analysis has illuminated critical gaps in our collective understanding of what true equity looks like, particularly for Black women in professional spaces. Tasha doesn't just collect data, she reveals truth that many would prefer to leave unexamined. Her fearless commitment to authentic representation has created ripples of change across industries, challenging comfortable narratives and inspiring a new generation of truth tellers. The insights I share today stand on the foundation of her remarkable work. Let me start with a question that might unsettle you. What if much of what we celebrate as progress is actually a carefully constructed illusion? 11%. That's the record breaking percentage of Fortune 500 companies now led by women. When this statistic made headlines, it triggers celebrations across corporate America. Progress, right? A clear sign that glass ceilings are shattering. That's the story we love to tell ourselves. The comforting narrative that allows us to believe the arc of history bends steadily toward justice. But as Tasha Green's research reveals with stark clarity, only two of those CEOs are Black women. Two out of 500. Let that sink in for a moment. Two out of 500. This isn't just a statistic, it's a revelation. It exposes the profound disconnect between what we celebrate and what actually exists, between the stories we tell about progress and the lived realities of millions of women. This is the uncomfortable truth we need to confront. Visibility is not the same as equity. Representation is not the same as transformation. And what often passes for progress may actually be preserving the status quo in more subtle, insidious ways. Today, I want to explore a counterintuitive truth that emerged from my conversations with Tasha Green. The very metrics we use to measure advancement might actually be obscuring deeper, more persistent barriers to genuine equality. And understanding this distinction isn't just academic, it's essential for creating workplaces and economies that truly work for everyone. Let's look deeper at what Tasha's research uncovered. Black women currently own approximately 2.4 million businesses in America, making them the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in the country. That sounds like a triumph, doesn't it? A clear indicator of economic empowerment and opportunity. But this statistic exists alongside another reality. These same entrepreneurs face disproportionate challenges accessing capital, building networks, and scaling their businesses beyond certain thresholds. They're more likely to be concentrated in lower margin industries. They're less likely to receive venture funding, and they're more vulnerable to economic downturns. The numbers tell a shocking story. In April 2025 alone, Black women lost 106,000 jobs, a staggering figure that reveals how precarious even apparent progress can be. This isn't just an economic statistic, it represents 106,000 individual lives thrown into uncertainty, 106,000 families facing new hardships, 106,000 dreams deferred or derailed. What Tasha Green's work illuminates is that we've been asking the wrong questions. We've been satisfied with symbolic victories while fundamental structures remain unchanged. We celebrate the exceptional few who break through while accepting systems that continue to marginalize the many. Let me share with you the story of Thasunda Brown Ducketet, one of those two Black female CEOs on the Fortune 500 list. Her journey is remarkable by any standard. She began as a first generation college student who steadily climbed through the ranks of banking before breaking barriers at JP Morgan Chase and Company, eventually taking the helm at TIAA, a major financial services organization focused on retirement solutions for educators and nonprofit workers. By conventional metrics, Duckett represents the American dream realized, proof that with enough talent and determination, anyone can reach the pinnacle of corporate success. But what makes her leadership truly transformative isn't just her personal achievement, it's how she's used her position to create systemic change. At TIAA, Duckett prioritized inclusive leadership development, creating mentorship programs specifically targeting underrepresented talent. She advocated externally for structural changes across the finance industry. Under her leadership, TIAA improved retention rates among employees from marginalized backgrounds and saw measurable increases in client trust scores. In other words, she recognized that her individual success would be hollow if it didn't create pathways for others. She understood that true progress isn't measured by exceptional cases, but by transformed systems. This brings me to the first key insight from Tasha Green's research. Representation does not equal equity. Even as more Black women achieve leadership roles or launch businesses, systemic barriers around compensation and advancement persist. The presence of Black women in positions of visibility doesn't automatically translate to equitable treatment for all Black women in those spaces. Consider Tony Townies Whitley, who became CEO at Science Applications International Corp in June 2024. The technology and government contracting sectors have historically lacked diversity at executive levels, making her appointment particularly significant. But Towns Whitley encountered resistance from stakeholders unaccustomed to seeing a Black woman lead such a large publicly traded tech company. Rather than simply occupying the role, she transformed it. She implemented supplier diversity programs company wide while investing heavily in STEM education partnerships, targeting young people from underrepresented communities. AIC reported stronger employee engagement scores after her transition, and the external partnerships she established have opened pathways into tech careers nationwide for diverse students. Her leadership catalyzed broader conversations about what it means to create sustainable opportunity, not just symbolic appointments, in technology fields. This is what progress actually looks like, not just changing who sits in the chair, but changing what the chair represents and what can be accomplished from it. The second insight from Tasha Green's work is equally challenging. Resilience is essential, but shouldn't be required. The data shows Black women often bear the brunt of economic downturns, yet they continue to drive entrepreneurship at record rates. This resilience is frequently celebrated but rarely questioned. Why should extraordinary resilience be necessary for ordinary success? Let's look at the collective rise of Black women entrepreneurs. As of early 2025, there are over 2.4 million businesses owned by Black women, making them the fastest growing demographic among all entrepreneurs in America. Despite rapid growth rates since the early 70s, a staggering increase over decades, These founders face steep hurdles accessing capital investment. Many have turned toward collective models like business cooperatives or local angel investor groups tailored specifically toward supporting minority owned startups. Communities report greater economic resilience where these businesses thrive. Peer mentoring networks have helped thousands navigate pandemic era setbacks more successfully than isolated efforts alone would allow. The surge in entrepreneurship began amid social justice movements post COVID lockdowns, when many left traditional workplaces seeking autonomy after repeated experiences with pay discrimination or lackluster advancement prospects. Black female entrepreneurs now account for nearly 14% of all woman owned firms, outpacing every other ethnic group by rate of growth. Their collective impact has shifted local economies across multiple states, fueling job creation even amid national slowdowns. This is remarkable, but it also reflects a troubling reality. Many Black women are creating their own tables because they weren't welcome at existing ones. Their resilience is inspiring, but it's also born of necessity. Which brings me to the third insight from Tasha Green's research. Collective advocacy and bold action are needed. Progress will require not just individual success stories, but policies and practices intentionally designed with and for Black women professionals in mind. This is where we all come in. This is where the conversation shifts from observation to action. What if we stopped celebrating resilience and started eliminating the need for it? What if we moved beyond representation and toward genuine transformation? What if we recognized that the metrics we've been using to measure progress, the number of CEOs, the growth in business ownership, are necessary but insufficient indicators of true equity? In my conversation with Tasha Green, she emphasized that the path forward requires both individual and collective action. It requires those with privilege and power to examine the systems they benefit from and work actively to transform them. It requires those who have achieved success to reach back and create pathways for others. And it requires all of us to question our assumptions about what progress looks like. For Black women navigating professional spaces, this might mean embracing what Tasha calls the soft girl era, rejecting the superwoman cape, setting boundaries without apology, and prioritizing well being alongside achievement. It means recognizing that softness is not weakness, it's a radical act of self preservation in a world that demands constant strength. For allies and organizations, it means moving beyond diversity initiatives that focus on numbers alone and toward equity practices that address underlying structures. It means examining hiring practices, promotion pathways, compensation policies, and workplace cultures with a critical eye toward who they serve and who they exclude. I stand before you today not just to share information, but to ignite transformation. The illusion of progress is comfortable. It allows us to believe we've done enough, that the hard work is behind us, but true equity demands more. It demands our discomfort, it demands our courage, it demands our action. So I challenge you, when you leave this room today, refuse to accept tokenism as triumph. Refuse to celebrate symbolic victories while fundamental inequities persist. Examine the spaces you inhabit, the power you hold, and ask yourself, am I perpetuating the illusion or am I creating genuine change? For those with influence in hiring and promotion, commit to examining not just who gets in the door, but who thrives once inside. For investors, Look beyond familiar networks to find the brilliant entrepreneurs whose ideas have been systematically overlooked. For everyone, recognize that your silence in the face of inequity is not neutrality, it is complicity. The path to true equity isn't paved with good intentions or inspiring statistics. It's built through deliberate, sustained action that transforms systems, not just symbols. It requires us to move beyond the comfortable celebration of exceptional cases and toward the uncomfortable work of dismantling barriers for all. The question is not whether we can create a more equitable world, it's whether we have the courage to see through the mirage of progress and do what justice actually demands of us. I believe we do. And that journey begins today with each of us right here. Thank you